Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's review, we are taking a look at the Peak from Latitude 64. Let's go ahead and kick this review off by taking a look at the profile, the feel, and the specs for the Peak. First, being a putter, it does have a decently blunt nose, also does have a high shoulder, but it's a gradual incline, and then a slight dome in the middle of the flight plate, at least in the Grand Plastic when compared to the Zero Medium Orbit, which does have a flatter flight plate, and which is comparable to the Sense Plastic as well, both of those being baseline. Also, worth noting that the Peak is a beaded putter. So if you like beaded putters, might be worth checking out. When it comes to the feel, as a premium plastic, I was really impressed with the grip that you got with the Grand Plastic. It's also very flexible. If you're wanting something stiffer, the Sense is a good option, but it is baseline, so it's going to bead in very quickly. And if you're someone who likes base plastic but needs something just a little bit more flexible, a little more give to it, then you are going to want to take a look at the Zero Medium Orbit, which is my personal favorite. And when looking at the numbers, the one thing that stands out to me is that it has a good amount of height to it, so this is a semi-deep feeling putter. When it comes to the flight numbers, the Peak has a speed 3, glide 3, turn 0, and a fade of 1, which as a slower arm speed player, I would say is actually pretty spot on. When I throw the Peak on a hyzer, that's what it's going to do. It is going to hold that arcing hyzer line. I don't really get too much of a flip up to flat. I don't have to worry about it. It is just going to hold that hyzer angle, that kind of one angle line, without the threat of it turning over. Now, that's not to say that it won't get any flip up at all, because if you do throw it on just a slight amount of hyzer, you can get it to pop up to a flat angle, get it to ride straight before then just at the very end of the flight as it slows down. You can depend on the fact that it's going to have a slight hyzer finish. When thrown flat, the Peak is fairly straight. It's not the straightest of putters. Depending on your arm speed, the slower you throw it, the straighter it's going to be with just that predictable finish. But the faster your arm speed gets, you're going to notice a little bit of a panning turn in kind of the middle stages of the flight. Just before then, as it slows down, again, that late little bit of stability kicks in and kind of auto corrects it and gives it that slight hyzer finish. But overall, the amount of turn and the amount of fade back is very slight, so you can still trust it in the woods for tunnel shots and gaps. And then when it comes to anhyzer angles, if you throw the Peak with some height, it has decent amount of high speed resistance to turn, but still workable, so it'll hold that angle of release. But then with that late amount of stability at the very end, you can still kind of shape it around objects and just know it's going to level itself out. And depending on the height, will have a gentle hyzer back. And being a neutral putter when it comes to forehand, you're going to want to use this more on finesse lines using a lot more wrist than arm. On the course, the Peak really does shine. First, I like it when you hold it out just a little bit wide, just knowing you're going to get, again, kind of hold that arcing hyzer with just that gentle amount of fade back. But it's also very useful in the woods because it's not super overstable, very neutral. You can work it on a lot of different lines, hitting a lot of different gaps and shots. Also, I mentioned that it has that late stability, so it does work decently well if you need to get around something for those gentle S-curves, but it also holds that angle of release, so if you put it on that anhyzer line, you can get it to hold really nice, long, beautiful controlled turns. We've seen what the Peak can do as a thrower, but how about as a putting putter? Well, in both the Sense and Zero Medium Plastics, this is a very straight putting putter. You just want to aim at the pole, and that is where it's going to go. Even as I'm getting out closer to that 35-40 feet range, I'm not noticing much of a dump. I just aim at the pole, and that's exactly where it's going. For glide, I'd say it's okay. On those longer putt, circle's edge, and just beyond, I did notice it would have a bit of a drop. For the plastics, it does come in both premium and baseline, the Grand being the premium, Sense, Zero Medium Orbit, as I've mentioned already, are baseline, as well as the Zero Pro, which actually did come out after this video was filmed, so I apologize I don't have that to include. But the Zero Medium Orbit is by far my favorite of all the different Peaks that I tried. It is a lot straighter even than the premium, it will break in fairly quickly, and it had the harsher finish. The Sense, this one was probably like the straightest in the sense that it had, no pun intended, that it just didn't have too much fade. Very little to no turn in the middle part of the flight versus the Grand, but it had almost no fade compared to, say, the Zero Medium Orbit. Out of the box, the Peak and Grand Plastic is going to give you that nice predictable flight for a longer amount of time than any of the others. It may get a little bit of turn in the middle part of the flight, just a little pan before having a little bit of a baby hyzer back, depending on your arm speed, versus the Sense Plastic. It's baseline, a much stiffer plastic, which might be your go-to if you really want a very stiff version. That is going to be your straightest. It's going to get almost no turn whatsoever in the middle part of the flight like the Grand does, but then it's also going to have very minimum amount of fade back at the end. Versus the Zero Medium Orbit, that is going to be very straight in the earlier parts of the flight and middle part of the flight like the Sense, but it has a little bit more fight at the very end. So again, I would consider the Zero Medium Orbit, at least out of the box, the most air quotes overstable, but overall it is still going to be just a very point and shoot style putter. Now for my final thoughts on the Peak. If you are looking for a neutral throwing and putting putter with a bead, this could be the putter for you. It has just enough early torque resistance and late stability. It'll hold those arcing hyzer lines, but it also is workable for those tunnel shots, gap shots, or even those nice controlled turnover shots. The Peak really can do it all and is perfect for those one disc rounds. Well, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and smash that like button if you haven't already. And also, if you need to pick up a Peak or just new discs in general, be sure to visit GreatLakesDisc.com. Thank you again, everyone. And until the next one, keep banging them chains.